Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. For they will fall as rain from the sky, and as dew on the grass they will lie. For I will proclaim the name of Yahweh and tell of what rightly is His. For His works are faithful, His words are true. Ki la'olam chasdo, ki tov le'adov la'Yahweh Eloheinu, ki tov le'adov Yahweh. Give thanks to Yahweh, for it is good to give thanks to our God, Yahweh. Though with their own eyes His works they did see, they chose not to follow His lead. His face He has hid from them and from us, to see what we do with our lives. Shuvah Yahweh Ad Matai, Anashva Yahweh. Come back, Yahweh, how long must we wait? We beg you, come back, Yahweh. Ki tov le'adov la'Yahweh Eloheinu, ki tov le'adov Yahweh. Give thanks to Yahweh, for it is good to give thanks to our God, Yahweh. Ki tov le'adov la'Yahweh Eloheinu, ki tov le'adov Yahweh. Give
I see you sitting down.
We're good. We're good.
All righty.
Audio's working, I think.
Still
Okay.
can't get it.
Kind of waiting for somebody to confirm that.
I still
Yeah.
can't get it.
Because I'm seeing it, I just don't see any audio. I mean, of course, mine's not on. And let's see here.
I have every confidence in Dave's.
I'm pretty sure it's working. Usually, it's like, when I go back and look at it, it's like 2 or 3 minutes of us sitting there going,
How's it working?
What?
Where is it?
Janet Murphy said, I can hear you.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, okay. So
I
we
can
are-
hear you.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, we're out there.
Yep. There, yeah,
We'll
there's
make sure we're
a
out
number
there.
of people.
Not
Hopefully,
everybody, ate too much and fell asleep.
Right. Boy, that was a great lunch.
wouldn't it
That
though?
was a great lunch.
Hey, there's more.
One good thing about coming down here, somebody always brings food. It's worth the drive.
We know what your motives are,
That's
Ronnie.
that's
We
southern.
know.
That's
Right.
southern
Look at
hospitality.
that. Yeah,
You got
yeah.
to.
I mean, blessings upon those people, right? Remember
See,
what I talked about a while ago, right?
yeah, that's
All these
exactly
people do
right.
this stuff. So,
There you go.
But it's just
that
our
out.
way.
yeah, of course.
When the tribe comes in, we just like when the strangers show up, you you feed them.
That's right. That's right. That's what she did, right? Took care of them,
Yeah, that's right.
got them fed. So that was a interesting thing. The strangers that showed up, it's like they're just why, there's like some commentators say, well, here it is, Abraham just gone through the circumcision and automatically he's showing up, guest. And some people say, he had his tent right there on the path that the people are going to take because, they had their routes, the trade routes. And so if you're going to reach people, your wife was saying something today
Living,
about
yeah.
reaching out to people here, you got to reach out where they either they are or where they're going, putting out flyers.
He might have been collecting little passage fee too. I mean,
Well, I don't know about that
Say
now, but I'm just saying, if y'all talking about putting up flyers for let people know what's going on here. Of course, if you put them at the grocery store, a lot of people go through there. They look at a lot of those things that you post, and so if Abraham's there and he's got his tent, I mean, more than likely he's sitting in his tent right in the shade.
Right.
I don't think he's out in the hot sun.
the whole
Right.
purpose of the tent, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Purpose of the tent.
here he is. Hey guys, come up here. Got some shade, and while you're here and I'm taking care of you, I can talk to you.
Of course, who knows? Might not have been as hot back then as it is now.
And then he went and got it. He went and got. Is that the story where he went and got the cheeseburger?
Climate change.
Cheeseburger. I just-
That's interesting.
It's a lamb and cheese sandwich.
Oh my God.
But what people talk about these three, and I've seen people different ideas and concepts of these, like angels or malak. I think that's one of the word they say for that, and manifestations. It's like, but I think that they showed up there to start with. They had an agenda, and I've seen a lot of people say, "Well, angels, when they do something, they have an agenda. God sent them for a certain reason." I mean, is there been times where
There were three strangers that showed up.
right?
At some point in time, one took the form of a human represented by the Almighty.
Right.
And the other two, Malak, went off at a point in time, went off to do the Creator's bidding.
That's right.
That's
That's right.
over my pay grade.
So,
I'm following you.
you can,
Yeah.
hey, if you control time, space, and matter, you can do anything and be anywhere, anytime, any place with anybody.
That's deep, John.
Well,
But it's true. Hey, people got to realize that it's
makes
way
you-
more outside.
Makes you wonder, though,
Yeah.
where we are on the scale of things. Like at one point in time, when he said, when Jehovah said to Abraham, "I'm as far above you as the heaven is to the earth." He probably couldn't have, Abraham might not have been able to grab the concept of higher than that, but he wanted to put it in terms he could understand. So, that the Creator, man, it's hard to fathom why. I'm sure someday he'll explain it all to us, why he bothers with us. You ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Why does he
Yeah.
bother with us? We are such, I mean, and it's easy
There's
to
verses
get
on
I
that,
see what you're
John.
saying, but you gotta remember also, this is basically a story of a family, a particular person
I know.
and their movie.
But even there, I mean, it's at one point in time in scriptures,
So, I mean,
he gets so mad, he goes, "I'm just going to wipe everybody out
Right.
and start over again."
Right. Well,
mean, he just gets mad at us because, and not that we don't deserve it, but you know.
You know what the Bible says? What is man that thou art mindful of him? And
You
the
gotta
Son
speak
of
up
Man
now.
that
You
thou
gotta have
visitest
that.
him. For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor.
A
Thou
little bit
made him to
lower.
have dominion over the works of your hands, and you have put under all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, yea, the beasts of the field, the fowls of the air, the fish of the sea, whatsoever passeth through the path of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. And I'm fixing to break out in a song.
There you go.
Yeah, but the
Oh,
only thing
Lord,
that
our
doesn't
Lord,
do, that's the only
majestic
thing that
is your
doesn't do
name
is
in
explain
all
what
the
the
earth.
creators, you know, why is that? Why did he do that for us? I don't know. I'm sure that when the time comes, he'll explain it all to us. But
Well, you know, it's like some people talk about fear of the Lord, and they use that word. It's like, I'm scared.
Like he's a mean old
yeah,
man
but
up in
like-
the sky ready
Can
to
be.
shoot
Yeah,
lightning
well,
bolts
but
at
I'm
him.
saying a lot of if you look at some of those words, it doesn't mean that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's like look at, and then I'm saying Mrs. Ronnie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like look at my awesomeness per se. I mean, when we try to put a concept like how big is God, you know, we say. I mean, it makes my head hurt sometimes when I'm getting like, okay, God is bigger than this solar system.
Yeah.
If we go past the solar system, we got all this light travel, and God's bigger than
But
all that stuff.
But at the time when all this was written down, they really didn't know a lot about all that.
They did not.
I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't have astrology guys or astronomy guys.
Yeah.
There were, yeah.
Yeah.
Studied this. In fact, probably knew the sky better than we do now, as far as actual, you know, because that's what they had to do. Their internet was like staring at the stars. You know, they're keeping up with planet movements and
yeah,
stuff.
but they didn't know what that.
Well,
Unlike today,
they didn't know, but
they
they
just
knew.
pinholes in the sky. You know,
Right.
that's,
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that was the whole idea there.
so it's hard to explain to people, like you know, us
Uh-huh.
back then. Somebody once told me when I was in school a long time ago, education is like, you know, when you're a little kid and there's a ball game going on and there's a fence around the place and you're trying to look through the fence to see what's going on. Education is like you're standing way far away from this fence and there's a knot hole in the fence. And you can't hardly see anything on the other side of that. But
Yeah,
the
you're
more
close
you
to it.
learn, the closer you get to that knot hole.
Mm-hmm.
And so the closer you get, the more things open up and the more you see.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like that. Education and learning is the same thing as of other things. Is the same thing as with the Bible. The more you read, the more you try to understand, the more the picture you get to see.
That's why it's
We
a,
still got a long way to
yeah.
go.
That's why it's a blessing in disguise, I think, to have the honor of sitting in for Ross and teaching. Is that I learned so much more because of what you're saying.
yeah.
You are forced
Yes.
to
You talk to
To
any teacher,
concentrate
or anything, they're
and
going to say they
seek
learned
out
a lot from
more so than usual.
your own
So
studies.
you were busy heating up the lasagna, which, by the way, was really good, Terry, for those people that missed it. But
Oh, you mean that lasagna that wasn't vegetarian?
that's
Just
okay.
know here, I just got me a plate of food,
Confession.
you know.
It wasn't vegetarian.
But as I was telling Ronnie when you
Virtual food here.
were in the kitchen,
Yeah.
was that the nice thing for me about reading something over again or studying with others, like when Ronnie came to visit, he brought something out that I hadn't thought of before. When the servant goes to find a wife for his master's son, he's thinking, I need a son. You know, and of course, it's going, as it says in the scriptures, woman's going to come out and take care of you, give you water, give your camels water, and all that, and you'll know by the sign, right?
Right.
Now, the question is, that isn't really brought out in the scriptures, was that just Rebecca's nature? Or, like, and I don't want to skip too far ahead, but like other folks in there, and it does specifically mention with the Pharaoh that God hardened his heart.
Mm-hmm.
So he changed his mind against the
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
against the tribe of Israel. So did God put that in her mind to do that, or was it her nature? We don't know.
Well,
better
the
nature. I would-
okay. Even if it was in her nature, Ronnie brought out things I didn't know about how much water camels could drink because
Well,
and
maybe
this
she's
thing
really
about
good-natured.
kindness.
She'd have
yeah,
to be, right?
the
300 to 500
kindness,
gallons of
you
water, that's a
know?
lot of jars
The
of water.
kindness and
Drink
and
all you can
the
carry. Yeah.
And
the
then
kindness
some.
she had. You
Yeah.
know that she would care for those animals, realizing that's going to take a long
Get-
time.
Our point, what ago we were talking about our observation or our point of view, rather, in time even. One of our viewers, Ronnie, says, like the goldfish in the bowl, they think it's the only water in the bowl in the world. Our sight and insight depends on how wide, deep, and much we see and or study. You know, that's
Right.
pretty,
Yeah.
pretty
Well,
much
you know, a
wraps
lot
it
of-
up. Our worldview, so to speak. Yeah.
A lot of things, I think we get these epiphanies sometimes, or we
Mm-hmm.
get these revelations that we need at that point in time. I think
That's
I'm going.
right.
That's what like
So,
Ronnie
on need
said.
to know basis.
Well, it is, but it's like we get it, and it's like wow,
Yeah.
it's like unreal. Look at this right here, you know, because we don't think there's levels. Like going back to what you said, John, too. I think we had to unlearn a lot of stuff because
Sure.
we were taught.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody, a mathematician, the other day. We was talking about is 1 + 1 really 2?
Yeah.
We had to set a norm to have a justification of some other stuff.
Now,
So-
is 1 times 1 0? That's what I've always had to do. Just saying. Let's throw this out there at you. 1 times 1, that's
No,
what they taught
but
us in
0
school.
times 1 is 0.
0 times 1 is 0.
Okay, 1 times 1 is just 1.
Yeah, 1 times
okay.
1 is
Yeah.
1. Yeah.
You
Why,
need to go back to school,
why I'm
boy.
not a scholar, I tell you.
But think about this. We get these revelations. Why are we here today?
I know.
We've all had revelations. The people listening have revelations. They saw where they were, and they say, wait a minute, this is not exactly what I want.
It takes
And
a
they had to
village.
go back and get rid of some luggage or baggage they had holding them back. And they've moved to another dimension. I mean, I think that's one thing, John, going back to what you were saying,
About the heart.
the
issue.
heart.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this person, Rebecca, either it's her nature, like, this lady right here. Look at her nature, what she does. And stuff like that. No, I want to do that because I understand.
Dave will tell you some
Okay, right.
stuff about that
But the thing
nature.
is, like I said earlier, people around here, when you come to this place, you feel the kindness. You do. It's here, And so, but this lady got this whole section written about her for Sarah for what she did.
Yeah.
I'm going like,
It's
There's a lot-
Ronnie. It
there's a lot to
reminds
that.
me. It reminds me of some of the things Sarah did. She really did trust God because Abram's telling her, "Look, we pulling up stakes, we going."
Yeah, but
I've had to do things like that with Dave. When Dave made a decision that I'm going to change my profession, we're going to go out here and do this thing, and there's no way. And I've just had my little conversation with God and said,
I always wait to the worst possible moment at the time to do that. Too.
I trust you. You will guide us through this and deliver us if you have to.
right,
But he has been faithful. He's been faithful to do that.
exactly.
See,
And-
the other thing too, though, is we're looking at it again. It's perspective.
Hindsight, yeah.
Well, no, it's not. It's not just hindsight. I mean, for instance,
They were
we're
there.
all at a certain age, right? Mm-hmm. Abraham, when he got the calling to leave to go walk for himself, he was older than we are,
Right.
and Sarah was older than we
Yeah.
are, and so they'd already been together a lifetime. So maybe Sarah. And I'm thinking about as people get older, it's like think back to when we were younger, when little things meant a lot. And now big things don't mean so much. So, Sarah's like, well, I don't care.
One
If
of
you
our-
want to go, we'll go,
Yeah.
Whereas if they were in their 20s and 30s, we can't go out.
Yeah.
Our family's here, everything's
Yeah.
here, blah, blah, blah,
It kind of lines up with one of the viewers is mentioning that we possibly, I'm going to paraphrase it, we possibly misinterpret what they knew at the time.
Oh,
They
exactly.
might have known more
Well, yeah. I mean, you think about. I mean, like I was talking to
than what
someone the
we
other
give
day.
them credit for knowing now. Yeah.
Used to, there were schools of thought, right, where people would study all this stuff and get together and dwell into this thing. You know, where are they today? You know, we were more. Everybody wants like, and I'm gonna use it. Don't take this the wrong way, but it's like they want a McDonald's religion. Okay,
Yeah.
the fast food. They don't want to get down there and get the meat of it and see these things, these revelations. And I mean, J. David Davis taught me something years ago. He said this, and I'll never forget. He said, "Everything we know, everything we do to learn, everything else, is based on our knowledge, our education, and our perception at that point in time of our life.
That's right.
Because we don't know what's going on with somebody, and so
Right.
as we grow and learn, like I said, I learned stuff this week because doing the study I didn't know last week. Okay, but was I ready last week for it? I don't know if I was or not. But when I saw these things, it just kind of popped out to me, and I'm just a man, you know, just a person.
Yeah.
Listen,
Here's back to an old Irish saying that Murphy's laws, where according to Murphy, where you stand on a subject greatly depends on where you sit.
exactly.
And so sometimes in life we sit in different places
Yeah.
as we get older.
Yeah.
And so how you feel about things depends on where you are in life.
Well, one thing
No doubt about that.
I meant to
No
bring
doubt
out
about that.
too, you know, like when someone dies, like Sarah
Yeah.
today, all her knowledge and wisdom, everything left with her. That she had. Okay, so if another person, or I mean, maybe she passed this on
Sure.
to her children,
Shared
stuff like
some of that, yeah.
But could she pass on every little experience and stuff that she had? No. So I can see why some of the rabbis say, you know, the world suffers when you have a person of learned.
Sure.
You know, whole world suffers because that
Doesn't
knowledge
just
and
about
education is gone. So as we grow and learn, and we can disseminate this information that for whatever use it's for. I mean, maybe it's just for me. May not be for Mark, may not be for John or anybody. Maybe it's just for me, but maybe there's somebody else out there that needs to learn this or needs to understand this better. Because we have a lot of new folks with UIW that's coming on, and some of us had 30 years of this thing doing it.
Yeah, you speak Jay Davis. What's his name?
JW.
J. David Davis, yes.
Yes, I've heard that name referred to a lot of times. A lot of you guys, I think you
never met him.
You never
That's
met him,
where-
but
Yeah, Ross.
you
has
guys
talked
used to
about
go
him a
to
lot.
the-
Yeah, with the Noahide group, yeah.
yeah, in the mid '80s or so. I don't know exactly what the time is.
Early 90s is when I was
Early
going.
90s,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
where I met Tabor and Ross and
Yeah.
a bunch of other ones and stuff. Because he
That was back in the time when I actually did some of this myself, not with that particular group, but you'd travel, you'd get in the car and drive to a conference or something, or a meeting, and
Yeah.
and do this. There wasn't none of this internet stuff going on.
No, we that's what we did, you know. And he had a place, and rabbis would come in and different things because they were looking at the Noahide laws and how it affects people today. That type of deal.
Some of that probably, and I think Ross was. I'm getting off subject here, but I think that's kind of like one of Ross's passions with this tent revival thing. He wants to get back to those meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
They were important. The fellowship was there and such. And I don't know really how it applies to what we're talking about here, but things change, I guess is what I'm saying.
It does to some extent because when we're dealing with electronics, the one thing you can't normally do is you don't normally see somebody, you don't know how from their facial expressions, how they really feel about something.
Missing.
You're just seeing
hard.
words
It's
on
hard.
a screen.
Yeah.
Right.
And it makes a big difference
Sure.
when you're physically with somebody.
You have to really put a little bit more effort into talking. When we talk one-on-one, you can see my expressions.
Yeah,
like
you
what I'm
read
saying.
people's expressions.
But if
yeah.
I was to type some of the stuff I say, he's like, "What?"
I know.
Yeah.
An old
I
I have to
director
work hard. I have to
Yeah,
work hard.
you're right
years
about
ago,
that.
I had a director of engineering that said, if you have to do an email, this is
Right.
work-related stuff.
So-
A lot of times, things we get in where somebody would send an email and it struck somebody the wrong way, they fire back another
Yeah.
email. And then it
Yeah.
started World War III and it escalated where you were lobbing emails
It was all
over
a
the walls and stuff.
misunderstanding. Yeah.
And so his thing was stop. After like the second exchange, get up, go over and sit down and talk with the person
Exactly.
and discuss it, because the emails are actually one of the lowest forms of communication.
And if you think about it, you know, and I'm going to put this right into our text. If you think about it, that's what we're trying to do with these Bible studies and stuff. We're taking a text message that we're trying to interpret the person's point of view and how they felt at the time. You know, that makes it kind of tough, you know.
It does.
I mean, if you look at it that way, it's kind of like
When
Well,
you
we
put it that way,
always
it sounds interesting.
Yeah, I
if one of
always
them
wanna
could be
know.
here today and
Right.
speak English and go, no, that wasn't what I was thinking about at all, you know.
yeah. So I mean, we got to kind of keep an open mind, so to speak, on that point. It's like, okay, well, these, you know, how do we put ourselves in those people's shoes? You know?
Manners and customs of the Bible and
Yeah.
stuff. That
And
was
how
like
does that
was
apply
something when
to
I first
us
started.
today?
It's interesting to try to get a viewpoint
Yeah.
from how they really lived, because I didn't know.
Right,
Right.
right.
It's one of the advantages of going over there now, you know, when you visit over there, you get a little bit better perspective. Better's not the right word. You get a different,
Different perspective.
Well,
yeah.
in
of-
some
of
some
the
ways it's
land,
better.
anyway,
Some
you know?
different, yes, and in
Yeah.
some ways better
Yeah.
when you can actually meet with people over there. I know I didn't really appreciate until I was over in Jordan and camping out with the Bedouin that they have it's like a law of the desert
Right, right.
that when somebody comes to you, you give them drink,
Hospitality.
hospitality,
Yeah.
drinking water,
It's not
shelter,
because you're
shade,
just being
whatever,
Nice.
Yeah.
It's just
It's-
that's what you
Yeah.
have
to give them
It's
life.
life. Yeah, yeah.
That's
So,
the way it used to be here in the 50s.
We were walking
Yeah.
up the
Yeah.
back mountain
Exactly.
passes to the back way up to the monastery in Petra
Yes.
over in Jordan. Well, as we're going through there with our Bedouin guide, we come around this bend and it kind of opens up and you can see, it's like the desert just went on forever, and we were in the mountains way above it, and you could see across this big desert valley. I don't know where it was.
Right.
If I had to, I would have probably got lost in there by myself. I hadn't had a guide. But there was this lady there, and she had a little tent set up, shade, which is something hard to come by in that part of the world,
Right.
and some trinkets and stuff out you could buy. And she had a table full of tea. And she was like, offering us the tea, and Lynn and I were going like, well, no. And the guide said, take the tea.
Yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
insult her if you
don't.
don't.
And it's good tea.
Hospitality.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, I know one of the times me and Ross went over there. We were there for a little while. We had a nice place to stay and so on and so forth in the desert, But I never really relaxed and so forth. But one of the locals there invited us to his tent, and we got to lay on the floor basically
Right.
with the pillows and drink tea and everything. And you know how you get when you get on the floor, you can stretch out and rest your back. And I was kind of like, this is the comfortablest I've been here. Laying on the ground basically, but in the tent.
So you don't really think about that stuff.
You don't think about it.
And that's where Abraham and all those people were,
Exactly.
even though they weren't Bedouin, they were their own people, their own tribe.
Sure.
So, sometimes people don't have that. And so there's things, I'm sure, what Mark said, there's things we miss. We just don't know
The
what the
culture,
mores
yeah,
were
yeah.
back then.
Well, I think that's where you've got to really study and
Yeah.
research and see, is this what they did,
Yeah.
And we can-
Exactly.
And we don't know. We're taking everything we do is taking somebody else's opinion.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many opinions out there. This writer says this writer says this. I mean, we've all chunked stuff we've heard some people say.
And,
'Cause-
and they had opinions back then.
Exactly.
These guys,
Yeah.
people we're talking about, they had opinions also. How do we fit that into the puzzle?
Well,
I've
One
been,
thing
I've
Great
been,
puzzle.
time out.
Go ahead.
Minor.
Go ahead.
I'm going to jump in here
in.
before I forget it.
No
You
ages
mentioned
on that
something
problem.
about sharing, to help other people and people that are new coming in. And you mentioned putting together a book of our stories.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe it was Rachel Unruh that said last year at the conference, she asked people send her their stories.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I
and
thought
I
somebody
think
said something about
she's-
that.
Jodelle says she's
And
working on
Jodelle
it.
says she's working on it too. So there are
That's great.
two, unless Jodelle is working with Rachel,
Maybe so. Maybe so.
there's something that's two witnesses there.
Yeah.
We need to do this, people. We need
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
our stories and
Yeah.
share them.
What do we call that when I was Baptist growing up? In our church, we had
Testimony.
no it was
testimony
like
time.
we had our books with everybody's picture in
Oh.
the directory or whatever.
Yeah, the directory.
You got a membership directory
Yeah.
type
yeah,
thing?
that
yeah.
kind of thing.
I think it's
I
a
thought
great
they were
thing.
kind of
Yeah, it
clowny at
is.
the time, but I still have some of mine growing up. And it's like,
But the
wow,
stories,
look at this.
the stories could be helpful
Yeah.
and encouraging to people who are just waking up to, hey, these things that I've believed all my life, this might not be true. Let me check this out. If you know of other people that had a similar journey, it can be encouraging.
And,
Sure.
these stories and the text we're studying, and those, it obviously was important to those guys, and they recorded. And that's what they did. They kept an accounting of it apparently, and it at some point got written down. And then they had this, as Ronnie says, toted around with them.
Yeah, toted around.
Yeah.
You pick up even now about that tote, right?
We gonna let.
But the other thing I think is with Jodelle doing this and Rachel and everybody doing it, that they can share the experiences. So other people say, they'll say, well, I went through that same thing and you got through it. I think it gives them hope. That,
Yeah.
hey, you went through it and you made it. I think that would really help people bolster their confidence because, like, a lot of people have trouble. Back when I sold insurance, I was one of those guys go door to door, and they have what they call cold call reluctance.
Oh, yes.
You don't want to knock on that door. You don't want to say something.
You get the neck broke.
Yeah, and so you just had to learn this is what you got to do. But if you've got a commonality with that person, something you can, how to say it? Like I walked into a house one time, I said, "Wow, that's some really good looking flowers over there." I'm not a flower person, but they were pretty. Well, that was that person's key point. She loved her flowers. So we had something in common. She started talking about the flowers, and you listen. And same way with this stuff right here. I think would really be good. Like if we do the picture things and everything else, you know who it is when you're talking to them. I was in
Of course, a lot of us
Hattiesburg.
are anonymous now. You got to.
Well, I know if they want it, they have to get the permission.
Yeah.
But I was in Hattiesburg
That's
the other day
good.
with my wife. We was eating lunch, and I seen this person. I'd never met them, but they were a friend on Facebook. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" She said, "Hey, Ronnie, how you doing?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
Isn't that
"Okay,
funny?
hey, we had something in common, It's really neat."
You were my Facebook friend. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I never met you. I had somebody come up and hug my neck at McAllister's, and my wife was there, and my wife goes, "Who was that person?" Because it's a lady,
Yeah.
She didn't know who she was, and I told her, "Okay, it's fine."
I have fans all over the place.
Right. I don't know if we're fine.
I'm kind of thinking the other way around there.
Well, Ronnie said something here a while ago about the will. Where what was that? Mine doesn't scroll back
While
up.
you talking, I'll look for it.
Anyway, he's talking about the will. God does not impose His will upon us.
Oh, yeah.
Something
Keep
like
talking.
that.
Keep talking. I'll find it for you.
And I think that's exactly right because we can choose to obey God or not.
Right.
That's our decision. It's all in our court. We can say yay or nay. That's our will if we want to do that.
God does not take our will even if we give it to Him.
That's right.
Walk for us.
Right. We have got to step out there and do it. And all these different things, whether it's study, research, or just your way of life that you live. Like I said, I think when I was talking today, I don't live like I did 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
Right.
I've changed. I was a Pentecostal preacher. That's what I did 20 years ago. I'm like, for me to even think back then I'd be doing this kind of stuff like this, like,
I know.
no way.
Me and you both.
Yeah.
But on the flip side,
Okay.
Jehovah, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, as the scriptures indicate that you're supposed to be doing, He will likely be happy and pleased with you.
Oh, yeah.
Things will, as Ross would say, good things will chase you down.
Oh, I agree 100%.
I agree.
It's in the book.
If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, He's likely going to be unhappy with you. In which case, bad things will chase you down.
Well, they say, I think, what, Deuteronomy 30, 15 blessings and 30 curses.
Yin and the
That's
yang.
real.
Yin and yang. But, 15 blessings, twice as many curses if you don't. But if you hearken and obey, these things will run down and catch you. I think it's something like that. He used that, I think, that term.
chase you down.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get you. But that's doing the will of God. But we got to find out what is the will of God.
And the plan.
Yeah.
Well,
Get with
in
the
the
plan.
in this, the one time that I'm familiar with in the scriptures, where Jehovah came down and spoke to hundreds of thousands of people. He spoke 10 words. Now that's the only time of written record that I know of.
Yeah.
Somebody else may know of, but that I know that he actually spoke. It scared them so bad they didn't want him to do it again.
Right.
But he spoke, and that's what he had to say. It wasn't. If you look at that great big book, he's got one passage in there. Then he didn't say any more. So if we want to know what he wants, what he thinks we ought to be doing, it's probably sitting in those 10 words.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at even the 613 laws, most of those deal with the temple, is my understanding. But the rest of them is like how to deal with your man, the common person that you're with, your
Yes.
neighbor. Well, what does it say in those 10 words? If you look at it, don't kill, don't murder this one, don't do this, don't do that.
Rules for different people.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
But
it can't be much simpler
see,
than that.
I love that you brought out Leviticus 19:34, and that's where the golden rule comes in. That stranger that dwells among you. Love them like you love yourself.
It was 18, I think it's like 20 total, but there's like 18 more spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, if you were
Shall
gonna,
be as one
if you were
born
gonna
among
ask the
you.
Almighty, what's the most important thing on your mind that we should be doing? And he told us. There was no secret. He told us. Now the rest of everything else supports that.
We as humans tend to make things more complicated than they really are. And, I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm a simple kind of guy anyway, so, I guess you could, I guess I could work on making it more complicated and, this and that, and we got to do this at a certain time and blah, 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 and so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
But, when it really comes down to it, what is our purpose? And I believe there's a text in the scripture about an old man, this is your, I'm not going to quote it, I'm not a Bible quoter, obedience basically.
That's what
Yeah.
Miriam said, obedience
Yeah.
is better than sacrifice.
Yeah.
If we're doing those 10s, I think by the act of us doing those is going to formulate our way that we live.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me
Go ahead.
let me add to that and be to your point. Maybe not so simple because we're refining United Israel World Union's purpose.
Yes.
What and to me, when I think about prophesy to these dry bones, I see the importance more and more of the words of the Torah being spoken out loud, discussed, studied, whatever. But maybe y'all could help you have been longer with United Israel. Share how this purpose or, the plan could be more specific, like not just a broad.
Instead of using a shotgun, you want to
Yeah, shotgun. I want. That's exactly. That's what I'm
Machine
saying.
gun.
Yeah. Well, what's the purpose per se? That type of issue.
And it has to do with the tribes waking up. To me, that's important.
Yeah.
Well, I think God's awakening these people, but they don't have an outlet.
Yes.
They don't know where to turn.
I got
I think what it in
it.
in the charter, I think that Horowitz basically put in there we were an outreach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're out basically Torah outreach, or if you will, Jewish outreach, to bring people to the Torah. And so that's kind of our mission. It's a big book.
But
That was
we're
definitely
not
his calling.
we're not Jewish. He was, but we're not.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah,
Well,
the
but he-
Hebrew Bible.
but he was
Yeah.
talking of all people.
well,
You know,
Yeah.
he's basically, yeah.
how do you know? You could be of
Well-
the tribe of Joseph.
Yeah.
See, at this point in my life,
See,
I don't
I'd
care.
mentioned that to
I
Ronnie.
don't
Like,
care.
again, you were in the kitchen, but I'd mentioned him. The only, and I'm not, I love. I mean this from the heart. All those brothers and sisters
Yes.
with Judah.
Yes. Absolutely.
And absolutely, just wonderful. Me being a crossover, and I mean this because, probably close to idolatry. Crossover. I don't have all the traditions of thousands of years. So anybody that comes like I do and crosses over into this study of the Torah doesn't have all those traditions.
Mm-hmm.
They have a bunch of traditions they got to undo and unlearn. But
Right.
so it's a fresh start. It's like, here's the Torah, you read this, and what does the Torah say? Well, this is what I do. Well, and I mean no disrespect, I'm not going to take a candle and go through the house looking for crumbs to make sure I got all the unleavened bread out. I mean, got all the leavened bread out.
Right. Right.
So that's not one of my traditions. That's not in the scriptures, but that's things that that the house of Judah does.
Yeah, you cannot.
So we're doing a fresh start. We're only doing what's in the scriptures.
Right. We're not doing rabbinical.
Yeah.
We're not doing rabbinical.
And so that's what, when people come and say, well, what do I've got this feeling, I want to know. For us, it's easier. We can say, well, let's start with Genesis.
So,
you know?
it really gets down to and I understand what you're saying there. I think I fully understand what you're saying there. You know, but when we say the rabbinical stuff, as far as oral traditions and
Commentaries.
commentaries on how we're supposed to keep this and that, if we don't have any of that, none of it, and we have to basically structure our own traditions at that point, given the text. We have to do the same thing over again.
Well, you know what?
Except we don't have a few thousand years.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So,
But we do have it. It says, okay, you will honor these celebrations, and so we try to do
Right.
that, and we do observe
Sure.
the
and how
Passover.
you do it, you basically having to make your own.
Well,
I'm not
what?
going to call it rabbinical, but
Well,
we
there's
have our
things that
own-
the scriptures say.
we have to figure
Like
out
for
how-
instance, if you
that
read
means.
what transpires at Passover, what you're supposed to do at Passover, and I had a rabbi explain this, and that's fine. It's fine.
Right.
There's nothing wrong
Right.
with doing more than you have to.
Oh, absolutely.
What's in the scriptures is what you should be doing, what you essentially what you have to do. But anything above that, in other words, the Passover, a quick Passover meal can last 4 hours.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long if you just follow the scriptures. But as the rabbi explained, what's happened with this and why it gets so long,
Yeah,
and in
the
some places
teaching
even
thing.
longer, it was a way of maintaining the traditions,
Stories.
Yeah.
the stories,
Yeah.
the heart and soul of a people that had everything else taken away from them. And I respect that.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but we don't have that. We don't have
So-
any of that. We're
so-
waking up going,
Right. So before you came along,
Got to build our own fences here now,
before
Or
you
not.
came along,
or not? Yeah.
um,
Well,
in the
that's it.
beginning with Ross,
Negative
we
spin.
would read like we did when I was teaching. We would read the Torah portion and the Parsha, and his premise, I do believe, it was faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the words
Right.
of Yah.
That's right.
And the more
In a-
we
in a literal
read,
sense. It
spoke,
was a literal-
listened to those words, the inside was changed.
Oh, yes.
There was a change that came about
Sure.
that, you can have the traditions and they're meaningful and everything and all that, but when it comes down to it, the change in your heart happens, I
old-
think, as a result
the
of
old
hearing the
Pentecostal saying,
words
claim it and-
then learning them and
I forgot, there's one.
doing them.
Fake it till you make it. There's another one.
Claim it, make it. You
But,
know,
Fake it until you make it.
that's what they used
Fake
to
it.
say.
No,
but
not that
look,
one.
Sharon, you hit on a point there that a lot, I think that I've been looking at some other people. The spoken word of God
Yes.
is awesome.
It is an awesome thing.
Because you're when you speak the words of God, you generate energy. The vibration that's coming out of my mouth is doing it. Okay, that energy is touching somebody.
name it and claim it.
Well, name and claim it. That's another thing. But this here, I mean, think about the energy, and when like we have people I saw on the internet where people they're reading the Torah in Hebrew. Earlier this
Yeah.
morning, they're doing
Torah.
stuff like that. They're speaking it, and so all this stuff people are doing it simultaneously, and these words are going out. That's affecting people's heart because by you even hearing it is going to affect you.
I believe that, Ron.
It's true,
And I'm
true.
sure Dave Tyler could explain it to us using physics and all, the quantum physics that he's into. That you look at something, the thing, what is it that the power of observation changes
particles and waves. And
changes
stuff like
something. But I think the same thing happens with the words of Jehovah.
To me, it's different for me when I read the 10 words than when I speak them out
That's
loud.
right.
When I speak them out loud, it's kind of scary.
It's
But good.
It's
But good.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you think about it. This is what you're doing. See, like I think this is Ronnie again. Everything we do, or we're surrounded, we see, we're affected by it one way or another. We may not even perceive it that we're affected by it. If you walk in a grocery store and you walk down this one aisle all the time, there's certain groceries that you might bypass all the time, but one day, you know what? I think I saw that over there, so I'm gonna go try it. Okay, you were affected and you didn't even notice it. But I think by speaking these words, it's affecting you right then, and it's generating this. I was looking at this thing like, okay, some of the lights, or some of the stars are what? The closest one is 4.5 light years away.
Good distance.
If you
Alpha
say so.
Centauri, I
Alpha
think.
Centauri.
Right? 40 light years away.
Long ways.
We got too many zeros on it for me to count.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, but the bottom line is that
Well
light
said.
got here.
Yeah.
Unless it stopped somewhere, that light, that energy, going back to Dave Tyler, the light, okay, when you get down to subatomic levels, it's like, is it a particle or is it a wave? The same thing with this energy that we're producing. When you did today, when you spoke those words, you generated that. Where does it stop? It went out on the internet, okay? And you spoke it. Even going through the internet, the energy that you made was generated and done what? Moved through the blinds till people heard it. So the voice still went out. The words went out.
Betty has a good question.
Okay.
Deuteronomy says, return it to your heart that Hashem is God. The question is, how does one go about doing this?
Returned to your heart.
How long we got?
Good one, Miss Betty. Oh.
Return to your heart.
I think
and then I touched on that when I
get
was
the-
teaching.
the idea of the question there, or the statement, however you want to look at that. It's a good one, but the important thing is to start that process. Just the little bit of turning towards Him, completes a process that can just keep going. It's an ever learning thing. I know Betty. I know that's what she meant here. But how does one go about doing this? I think it's it could be different for everybody, so to speak. But how do I know? How do I know what Sherry has to do to turn towards God? I can't ever answer that question.
I think one thing is, I think we have to come to the realization that there is a God,
Yeah.
a creator. I mean, I think that's the primary thing.
Sure.
Okay, I used to have a lot of names for God. Okay?
Yeah.
I didn't look at God like I look at God today. And, but there was a point in my life I had to let the other names go.
Yeah.
And realize this name is the name that I know to be God. And that was a big step.
Yes.
But when I did, and I'll be honest with you, when I saw that lightning didn't strike me, that's what everybody taught. If you do this, lightning's going to strike you, you're going to be all messed up, and your family's going to get killed, and all this stuff. It didn't happen.
Yes.
I was like, hey, I'm not wrong. You know, I think that's for me, Dave. You know.
Ronnie S. has a good said. He said, for me, it's to study Torah and to do best to implement in behavior and thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think Ross has taught that over and over again.
Yeah.
Listen, learn, guard, and do.
Yeah, what does it say? Hearken and obey, right? Mm-hmm. You got to hear it. You got to
Learn it,
and then you can do something
guard
about
it, do it.
So how would a person? I'm just going to throw a hypothetical out here. How would a person that doesn't believe in God, but maybe just doesn't know? I know they have names for those type of people, but
Agnostic.
well, whatever. They just don't know. They're not sure. I guess is a better way of putting it. What would be their first thing to do if they, in other words, they can't really say I believe in God, and that would be the first step they would take. So there'd have to be something that would help them. And I believe the answer to that question would be his obedience. He's faithful, and it's to his word.
Yeah. Okay. So I was making sure you knew.
I think what would have to happen is something would have to happen.
It's a little minor.
Something would have to happen
I'm not
in
gonna say
their
mustard
life.
seed, but I'm just going to say a spark.
Something would have to happen in their life where they had to make a conscious choice.
It could be good or bad. I mean, it could be.
Well, I'm saying that something happens, good or bad, really dramatic,
Right.
that causes them either to look at God or look away.
Either that-
That's a choice.
and that's a concentrated.
I believe that,
But
John.
it also could
You-
be.
you-
I believe
it could
that-
also be a
So the other
long-term
the other thing is,
over a lifespan. Over
Dave,
a
do you see this
long-term
full
thing.
screen?
It's not broken.
I mean, do you see the screen?
Yeah.
You can't see the screen. But when this turns toward you, you can see it. So when you turn toward God, He can see it.
Right. Right.
Now, maybe I can't see it. Mark can't see it, but God can see it. So to go back to that question,
Can't see mine.
to go back to that question you were saying
I'm
about
behind-
Sherry, you
behind
can't
my
tell.
screen.
You can't tell
Yeah.
when her heart is open to God.
Well, or what
But
she
God
has to
can.
do to.
Yeah, what she has to do. But God will know. So it's not really for any of us to know.
Right.
It's kind of that one-on-one relationship.
Yeah.
That's the important part.
To your point about something having to happen,
Some people have to reach the bottom.
um,
Some people have to reach the top.
some people that we come into contact with may be at that point, and I've seen this in the past, that if I share something with them that elevates God, gives Him the glory, gives Him praise, whatever, at that point, I believe that person that I'm talking to, they may have to make a decision, either to go towards God or, like you said, harden their hearts. It's like a mirror or something. When the word is put before you, you're either going to go towards it or away from it. There's no neutral thing there. It's a hardened heart, soft heart.
I think Jehovah puts us in a place because He has a plan. I mean, nothing is with Jehovah is chaotic.
Right.
It all has a plan. So I think everybody that God puts us in touch with at a certain time, at a certain place, is to benefit both people. That's how God puts us together. Whether it's you sharing knowledge or you receiving knowledge.
And the key is to be attuned to that.
Right.
You have
see
to be
that.
prepared
Yeah, well, yeah.
to be able to
Or recognize it.
willing
yeah.
to make that step yourself. In other words, you may not know at any one given time that's. I'm going to phrase this incorrectly. That's your job.
You may not even know it till years later.
Well, the
Looking
thing is,
back,
Exactly.
somebody else is in a position that they're ready to hear,
Yeah.
and you're in a spot to be able to tell them something you may not know that opportunity. There's not going to be a flashing light,
Right.
with neon signs and everything that says, "Hey, speak here to this person." You'll know. I think you'll know.
Yeah, but I believe Jehovah puts you there, whether
Yes.
you know it or not.
Yes.
He's got you there for, you know.
Yes. If you're,
I think for all of us sitting now,
if
there's a
your
reason.
heart's right and you're open to it, then I think yes.
It's an orchestra.
Yeah.
It's orchestrated.
Now you guys are going to think I'm crazy loon,
No,
but
you're
that's
all right.
okay.
You gotta
Ross
remember
already does. But the thing is that one morning I got up and I basically was compelled, I don't know how else to put it, to go down and talk to the folks at the Historic Society.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I spent the whole morning there
Sure,
talking
sure.
with them.
Yeah.
And then, surprisingly,
Go
walked away, and they were going to look into seeing if we might have use of the temple. That afternoon, the lady called me and said the
Come on.
Julius Freehand Foundation has accepted, you guys using that. I was shocked.
But you see, that's so encouraging.
But I mean,
That God can
I'm not.
He used you.
It wasn't me that said,
Yeah.
"By golly, I'm going to get this back." John's going to
Right.
go down and make this happen.
You didn't
Wasn't
have to
that at
seek
all.
it out. But
Nope.
you were in the place, and your heart was in the place where He could impress
I
you to
believe
do that. And that going back to this Temple Sinai, it's a wooden building. It's an old wooden building, but it's purpose. See,
Exactly.
the purpose still isn't finished to be fulfilled. I think this building,
There's a reason why we're back there.
yes, there's a reason why, and it has to do with the ingathering of the tribes and having this place that was built for that purpose. And it even says it. Ross has read in the opening dedication ceremony how the lost tribes could be in this. It's just amazing that in God's time it happens. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But go back to
Put the
what you
speakerphone
were
on.
saying.
We'll see.
If you had chosen not to do that, follow that will, that still small voice, it may not have happened.
Well, the other thing too is people, we all get jaded by things. And jaded's the wrong word. Conditioned. Let me put it that way. Conditioned. It's like Pavlov's dogs. The bells ring and you're
Right.
ready to eat. That
Right.
type thing. When you guys left the temple, there was a whole different agenda. All kinds of things were going on with the people that had control over it.
Yeah.
Apparently the time
were
was
homeless.
right. The time was right for somebody. Because one of the questions I asked was, well, do y'all believe the same ways as the Jewish people do? And I had to explain all that.
Interesting.
Good job.
Well,
Good job.
And so, we went, it was, and then, you had to share, we exchanged life stories and the whole 9 yards to get that comfort level that we were the right people to go be in that building for Sabbath morning services.
And apparently the lady you spoke to had
Right
enough
place at the right time.
spirituality or whatever, however, maybe that's the wrong word to use, that she understood it was important.
When she communicated to
have-
that representative for the Freehand
Someone there.
Foundation,
We don't always know, how we can see the evidence sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes.
well, she
But the
told me,
fact-
said, this has to be the will of God because I just had these keys made
Yeah,
2
yeah.
days ago.
But the truth of the matter is, and I'm pretty sure every one of our viewers, and I'm pretty sure everybody at this table, myself included, can testify to some point that our steps seem to be guided.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Kind of
That's
like
a
going
one-
to find Rebecca,
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the Torah reading.
I
It's
got
the
it.
same thing.
I got to share with y'all the story of how Dave and I came to Roots of Faith or this movement. We were in a charismatic church and we had a client that we were doing landscaping for, and she told us, there's this new Bible study starting up. My friend is starting in St. Francisville. Y'all might be interested in it. Well, that interested me. Little did I know. I mean, Dave was burnt out on church, okay?
Yeah.
It's like, So I'm getting the kids ready, and I'm going to go check out another charismatic church. And I say, he's like, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going, to check out this church. He said, I thought we were going to that Bible study. And when he said that, like, y'all don't know Dave, like I know Dave. But when he said that, I knew immediately, oh, this is important. Jehovah, I didn't say Jehovah, but God, this is you. Because, we didn't discuss it or anything, and he's ready to do this. This must be important. And we went. And it turned out to be the best decision. It was guided by it was guided by God. There's no other explanation for it, because usually Dave would go along with things I want to do or vice versa, but very rarely is it that certain that we should be doing this thing. And I knew then. And that was one of those things that didn't know at the time how important it was going to be.
So that's my point,
The timing. It's all in the timing. What was that lady? I can't remember her name.
But it's not our timing.
No, it's
our
God's
timing.
timing.
Yeah.
But, what's the lady that he walked in and talked to one of the prophets or kings or something? This lady walked in, and the Shunammite woman.
Yeah.
Remember, she walked in at a certain time. So I was just talking about this. She walked in at that exact time. Now, why did she walk in at that time? The timing was right.
Yes.
Somebody mentioned something about the false prophets. But I think it's another thing. We have to learn to distinguish God's voice.
Yeah, so it's one of our viewers brought up the story of Nathan and David when David wanted to build a house, and Nathan the prophet gave him permission, told him to go do it, and then later had to come back. God told him, the timing wasn't right there.
Yeah.
Not so much the timing, but the person building the house, David had blood on his hands.
That's funny you should mention that, because Linda and I, when the weather was right, a lot of I'm going to get an operation in January for my back, but when the time riding was, we would ride our bikes a lot.
Sure.
Down Ferdinand Street and through Royal Street, past where the temple is and all that. And so I had this idea, man, I got to find a way to get us back in that temple.
Right.
And
There
so
was a desire there. Yeah.
one time I was cruising past there, and it was right after we had a rainstorm, and I was here with Ross, and some kids came in. It was like, they would have never come in over there, because that's kind of out of the way now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're out here in front of everybody. And so all of a sudden I remembered that passage, that it wasn't, I lived all these years in the tent. I don't need a building. I don't need a temple.
Right.
And so I was like, okay. So I just kept going. Well, then, here a few months later, I get up one morning and feel compelled to go down there and ask for it.
Betty brought up something about that too.
Maybe the time, I guess what I'm saying, the timing wasn't right then, but for some reason it was like, go.
And Betty, I promise you, I just read this, but this is what was on my heart. After I saw what Jehovah did through John, I remembered you teaching on the lulav and the shaking of the lulav. And you brought that understanding about that tradition, what it meant. And I said, Betty was calling out to the lost tribes, and look what you did, Jehovah, right after that. He set you up to go in and to follow up on that. So I believe that's no coincidence. It's no coincidence that, Betty, you taught on that. You physically spoke the words, and you did the thing, and then something was put into motion. It wasn't planned. It was inspired. It was inspired. And you were inspired.
Sure.
But I think one thing,
And that's a cool way that our God works.
So we can all agree, it seems that our steps are guided, and that was one. I had recently had a conversation with a person that wasn't quite sure about this God thing, and that was pretty much all I could really testify to, is that through my life I can kind of look back and see how God had orchestrated a lot of things and guided my steps. And I wasn't always obedient, and so forth, but
Present.
I could see, yeah, you know, the one.
But
one
you can
foot
see
in
the
front-
benefits of when you work.
No, just, you know, the small face of one step in front of the other one, and one step in front of the other one. And just, you know, nope, I didn't see the big picture. You know, but that was the only testimony that I could give to this person that would make them think. You know, well, maybe there is something to this thing, because I look back and see some guidance in my life. That's kind of, you know, quote what came out of their mouth, and so that's pretty much all we got. You know, besides more faith in God, and studying the Torah, and learning things, and you know, that's all good. You know, it's good stuff.
Well, let me say this about what John said. You know, again, if we hear the voice, if we don't do anything with it,
That's right.
that's the problem.
So what
And
are we
all
missing
are
out on?
scared. Yeah, we are.
And a
You
lot
know
of-
what?
Missing out.
Everybody's missing out.
Yeah.
A lot.
Because it's not just,
Right.
hey, we messed up. It's because of our inactivity, nothing transpires. So that may take maybe another year or something. But anyway, I just thought about this. You know, like a lot of people are looking at this now, okay? And I think another role of everybody that's listening on this thing is like, we're going to have a bunch of new babies. Who's going to be ready to take care of the babies?
But the grandparents here, boy, I tell you
I
what.
know, but we got to be ready. I mean, like,
Yeah.
they're going to have questions. Now, I love Ross and I love everybody, but there's only so many Rosses and so many Dr. Tabors.
That's
When
right.
they start
that's
having
right.
questions, they got to be, a lot of us have got to be ready to help
I
them.
believe that.
Yes.
I call that putting the tools in the tool belt.
Yeah.
You put the tools in the tool belt, and pretty soon a job's going to come up that you're going to need those tools. So
Yeah.
that's so true.
Well, I don't want to abort the babies.
No.
I want them to have people they can go to and we trust. You know, they can give these words, give them the inspiration or answer some of the questions that they have. Because how many questions y'all have when y'all started in this movement?
Oh, wow.
Well, God,
Ross
I had everything.
Ross had to at one point he had to rearrange the way he taught because he allowed us to interrupt while he was teaching. Can you imagine this, Ron? And I was that one. Like,
Those are
what
great. Those
what
are great.
about this verse? What do you mean? I was very passionately like
many of
disturbed.
us-
Like what?
How many of us, when we taught, we use certain words we didn't use before?
Oh yeah.
We was talking about
That's-
Jehovah,
that's
Hashem. A lot of these people, they don't have a clue.
That's
Oh, look.
actually one of my teaching tools. There is the vocabulary that we use that people just don't understand. You know,
Oh, yeah.
especially when it comes to
Oh,
in our
gosh.
little group we have our own little cliche words that we use and everything. But you know, when you start talking about Judaism, oh my gosh, there's things in there people are like. What?
I got in trouble.
One friend of
with
mine
Leah.
is pretty much an English student. You know, he really studies the English language and its application. So reads a lot, but doesn't know how to pronounce a lot of these words.
Right.
And you know, so I mean, I guard that. My point is, I guard that a lot as much as I can, not to use the words that people don't understand.
Well, like
general
circumcised
public,
heart.
I guess
I
you
got
could
in
call
trouble with one of my friends who's not even. I think she's an atheist, but said
have to
something
guard
about circumcised heart, and of course she's like, "Oh no, circumcision, that's such a barbaric thing." It's like, no, I'm sorry, you got to understand that means just a open heart, a tender heart, like. So yeah, I have to be careful too, because
Yeah,
she,
that's my
she went
point. That's all
ballistic
my
on
point
me
is.
on that one.
So I mean, you
Like,
know, we kinda
circumcised
have to
heart.
understand that.
Gross.
It's almost like you're not a lot of club members, so to speak. You know, remember the secret club.
Yeah.
So we have to just kind of keep that in mind. A lot of times that has to do with our texting also. It's kind of how to. It's kind of what I call the art of dialogue. Even when it comes to text, it's how you write things and how you. You know, I normally put a lot of smiley faces. Try to smiley faces in text. Cause come on, people. You know,
But there's so many things to
it is. It's,
to learn. Even, you know, and the farther you go, you know, there's still questions.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that Ross started to go into and never actually made jumped over the curb on it,
I got you.
was, tracking down the lost tribes. Now, I've gone and read some articles
Sure,
and stuff,
sure.
and it's, that's one thing that is kind of interesting. I mean, when you get the basics of the scriptures, and then go forward and say, okay, these 10 tribes, this is what happened, and these tribes went off to Assyria, and all this good
Yeah.
stuff. And then they were their touch was lost with them. And now, because we stopped to think about it, there's a finite group of the house of Judah and Benjamin.
Right.
They can be counted. There are 8 billion people on this planet. There's a lot of stars in the sky, right? The finite group of Judah does not represent the stars in the sky.
Right.
Okay? So, once you get past the basics and all that, to me, the other thing is, okay, I want to know. I want to know. There's no way for certain, any way you look at it, but I want to know more about those lost. Where did they go? How did they migrate? Because they migrated all over the place.
And boy, there's been people that have spent their life.
I know, and I've read some of that stuff, and
and
that's would be great for us
all
to cover
these
as well. But I
people.
mean, it opens up the door to where you can say, through migrations of these tribes,
Well, see, that's,
there's all these millions and billions of people. How many of you are the lost tribes that should be reading these scriptures, that are just in the same boat we are?
Yes.
Going, okay, well, like Russ
Prophesy to the
says,
bones.
like
Prophesy
Russ
to the
says,
bones.
we might not be
Prophesy to the
the lost
spirit.
tribes of Joseph, but
Yeah.
when they do come to light, they're going to look and sound just like us, because they don't have any
See,
of those.
but see, that's a
that
good
history.
example. That's what Ross was doing there. He, the full teaching there and the full study there and everything. The man's got a lot on his mind. And,
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, he inspired you to do that. Yeah, so, that's kind of, it's a guide. We're talking about our steps being guided
Right.
there. So Ross started talking about that, and then got you really inspired to start studying on your own. Yeah.
But those are things that a lot of us, and for somebody that's just coming in, that's way beyond the
Yes.
scope of their course. That's like
right.
Yeah.
They're not-
it's like graduate school Torah.
Exactly.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of
Betty
material.
said something that I agree with 100% too. Like, a lot of these rabbis have written stuff, and like a lot of stuff I used today was based on what they said.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that they have. I'm not
Yes.
saying that what they're saying is the word of God.
No,
But it's their wisdom that they have.
Sure.
We're seeing things from a different point of view.
An insight. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unreal, the stuff. Wow. And these people wrote this stuff 300 or 400 years ago, some of them, or before then. And to see that knowledge base that's there. I mean, I think it's great. If we can help, if it helps us understand the point. But just like, if you read the Torah, and sometimes people are like, well, how does this work? All that kind of stuff. It's like, they don't understand it. Who does until the deeper research and all that
Sure.
stuff, right?
Isn't
It
that
takes a
of
long
these-
time.
Some of these rabbinic teachings are interesting. They're very interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh,
oh,
the-
yeah. Some of the
the
stories,
commentaries, the Friedman
yeah.
commentaries hurts. Gosh.
in the footnotes
Hey,
of the books
what-
I've got, they do that.
What I've read when I first started getting into this space, so to speak, I started reading some of that stuff, and the reason I even got to that point was like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm hard headed. I'm gonna figure this out. Then I got to read through this stuff. These guys have been working on this for thousands of years. They're much smarter than I am. So I'm like, well, maybe that's not my job.
I think it's interesting that in the fabric and the framework of modern Israel,
Yeah.
that they have made reparations for the lost tribes
Right.
How
to
so?
return,
How so?
because
It was mandated they do that. First
it's,
off.
it's mandated. It's in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in there. You can. The door is open for any Jew
Right,
to Aliyah.
right.
Yes.
But that's
or-
a Jew.
Right, but it also says any of the lost. It has in there for the lost tribes.
But I think that, doesn't that
It's-
have to be something you have to do a certain thing? They have to amend the law of return, the last thing.
They haven't defined on what those lost tribes are.
No, okay, is that what it is? 'Cause there's
There is
something that-
specifics for the house of Judah.
Pretty much when they figured out that they've got it set up to take all that.
To take them all in, but if it's true,
You gotta argue.
if it is like the stars in the sky and that migration holds to be true, then there's no way that all those people are gonna fit in Israel.
That's what I'm gonna say. The borders are gonna have to
they're-
go back to their were
Their
before.
primary
Even then, they're
concern,
gonna be stacked 10 high.
primary concern at this point is keeping the borders that they got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't
Same,
know, the
you
United
know.
States just recognized that Judea and Samaria belong to them.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Prophecy.
And nobody ever
We
thought that would
decided for
happen.
them. Yeah.
Well, we decided that Jerusalem was the capital.
I think
We
it was-
decided
it
to
was
go on
already
I-12.
known
And that
that
the
Bible
settlements
true.
weren't
I believe I
illegal.
read where in Hosea last night where
Okay.
Judah will be saved by God alone. It won't be by man.
That's
It won't
right.
be by anything
That's
else,
right.
but by God Himself. Jehovah
Yeah.
Himself will save.
Yeah.
So
That's a whole nother teaching right there. We can restart our feed and start over on that conversation right there about whose job is it, so to speak. What can we do to further this, or even should we?
yeah,
But what if
God
all
will guide us.
people
Yeah.
do a little bit?
Do what you can.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
You may not start a synagogue or start a teaching center, but if you reach one person, if everybody reach one, we double.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do it again, everybody reach it. The numbers will
Even
multiply.
even to be obedient to Torah, you can be nice to your animals. If you have a pet, you can be nice
Exactly.
to that.
Oy.
Yeah.
Well, you got a little challenge,
step,
animal
you know.
challenge going on here.
Yeah.
little
pet
steps
challenge.
like that that'll help.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
reading the Torah. If you set yourself to read the Torah all the time, even if you do it daily, or
Mm-hmm.
you sit down on Friday nights, and you read the Torah reading,
Sure.
and you start setting up a
Schedule, yeah.
schedule for yourself, and it will start unfolding from that part.
Become natural to do. And how many of us can testify that one of the most important things that that got us into this was the realization and the obedience of the Sabbath keeping.
Yes.
Keeping the Sabbath.
Yeah, that was a real
Changing
eye
it from
opener.
Sunday or Friday in some cases, I guess. But
Because
Yeah.
then you wondered what
We all
else
have that
did they
testimony.
change?
Exactly.
right. And,
What else isn't true?
In my Western outlook at the time was really, Saturday was my day. That was the day I cut grass. That was the day you took care of lists
Sunday was
and
the day you went and hid so everybody didn't see
Right.
you didn't go to church.
Right. So I can still recall. I mean, I guess at some point we got to close this out. I don't know.
One thing, since you said that, like, if I would, what changed certain things, like you talking about the Sabbath and stuff like that. One person asked me the question, "How can a God die?"
Right.
And that started me really
Yeah.
like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
You know.
Those
I told
those
Linda
kind of
last night.
things.
I said we were talking. I said when I went through that whole thing. I went with you guys about demigods.
Yeah.
Being
God is
popular
not a
in
man.
Greek and Roman worlds and all that back then. Well, I told us the difference between us and all of those is that our God was never born. He never died.
Yeah.
He's eternal in the heavens.
Exactly.
So I guess if your job is to haul water for camels, that's what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Hey,
Well put, Dave.
hey, that's your job. Do your job. If you run the camera system, right, Dave?
Whatever you find, do it right, or the best you can. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
you doing that?
Before we close out,
That's why I'll cook.
yeah, me
I
too.
can do that.
Me too.
I can do that.
Me too. Fix stuff.
Yeah. It's like, we know we got that. We can do that.
Anyway, that I wanted to mention, Lynn and I have the local folks here at the table knows. Lynn and I have acquired a blow up Hanukkah,
There you go.
and it's supposedly like 7-8 feet tall. It's coming in, and we're gonna. Except for the first night of Hanukkah, which Hanukkah's a tradition. It's
Does it
not
come
a
with a
scriptural
pump?
thing.
Come with a pump?
Yes, I think it
Oh,
does.
okay.
But I have one. But anyway, except for the first night where we're going to she and I are going to attend the lighting of the Hanukkah at the state capitol in Baton Rouge. We're going to try and be here the other nights of Hanukkah and blow the thing up. And at least one night we're going to try and make latkes. She makes a pretty mean sweet potato latke. Mm-hmm. So if anybody's passing by, want to stop in for a cup of coffee or a cool bottle of water, depending on the temperature outside,
Well,
and maybe try a latke or a donut, come on by and visit.
Yeah.
You'll see us by the giant inflatable Hanukkah until
Yeah,
we
there you
get
go.
too tired in the evening when we're going to deflate it and go home.
That's what. Yeah.
So-
You leave it up all night. Yeah,
So-
that's great. If I'm in the area, definitely do it. I can't look that far ahead.
Don't
I
understand.
could.
Just
but I
throwing it
don't.
out there.
But yeah, that's cool. A blow up.
Yeah. A yard toy.
Yeah.
Yep.
We got a yard.
Yeah.
Man.
Go for it.
Well, thank you,
Benji.
Ronnie, for showing up.
Yes.
Ronnie,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
you got us
Are
to
you-
thinking. You got us
are
to
you,
thinking.
Not a family.
Are you driving back today, or you got
Oh, yeah, I
other
got
things to
to.
do?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
sometimes you have business in this area and you stay
No, I
over.
gotta get back. I gotta get back.
Don't-
Well, we
don't-
really appreciate it. Thank you for the
Yeah.
teaching. It
Well,
was
thank
wonderful.
you for allowing me to come. I mean, it's like, I just love it down here.
We can-
Oh, that's your temple and this
Yeah.
is your
I think
place.
I think it was great that Ross on a tour. Of course, was on a tour and doing a tour, and he's got some. Right now he's on some. I guess you could call free time. Him and some of his friends are doing some touring over there. So, but it's been kind of neat having different teachers. Sherry,
oh, yeah.
you,
Oh, yeah. Different insights, wisdom. Yes.
Joe Dale came in and taught, and one of our listeners wants to hear from John.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
I am more than happy to read the 10 words. That's my favorite part. After that, Sherry or Joe Dell or Ronnie does a much better job than John ever could.
And like I say, we're closing out, but one of the reasons we even do this broadcast and take our time and do this is that everybody that tunes in on the internet, some of them that's their only fellowship they have, or even that it's still good fellowship. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's in that same boat, but it's just something cool to do.
And I know it's not possible for some people. It just really isn't, and I completely understand. But if anybody is in the area at any time, they need to be able to get a hold of one of us, and at least one of us. And it's easy to make contact arrangements. And I'm retired, so most of the time I'm available. And I could meet somebody here, or when Ross is in town, he could meet and get you some coffee, and we could give you a tour of the Temple Sinai. And if you're here on a Saturday, you could attend services. So be glad to see any of the remote family that's out there.
Beautiful little town to do some history looking, and a lot of Civil War stuff here. There's all kinds of stuff. There's a pretty big Jewish.
And an ever growing Joseph presence too.
Right.
Ever growing.
In
I
the
like that.
past, it had a pretty large Jewish communities here.
Yeah.
Here and in Woodville, Mississippi. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm there. I'm terrible. My son gives me a hard time on the telephone because we'll sit there and say bye about 15,000 times before we actually hang up the phone.
He hates to say bye to him.
Yeah.
Especially when he comes over to the house and he'll follow him out to the car. It's like 30 minutes later. Where's
They're
he?
driving off.
He's
I'm walking
still,
down the road.
He's still. Let that boy go home.
You do the Ted Clam thing. Y'all come back now. Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, here.
Let that boy go home.
Toast yourself back over here.
But by the way, the
love it,
difference
Rodney.
between
We love
tote
it,
and
Rodney.
carry is to tote something
Right.
means that you pick it up and
Oh, yeah.
and take it.
Okay.
If you're carrying, it means you're saddled with something,
Ah. Okay.
like a pack animal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so in Southern vernacular, toting is something that you do as a matter of choice. Carrying something is something you were
Right.
compelled to do by somebody else.
Your mule
Like
did-
Abraham compelled that fella
Yeah.
to go find a wife for Isaac.
Yeah.
I'm going to use tote from now on.
Yeah.
Toast yourself home.
That's it.
All right. Well, I'm fixing to hit the mute button.
All right.
right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye,
Right, shalom.
Bye, Shalom.
Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. For they will fall as rain from the sky, and as dew on the grass they will lie. For I will proclaim the name of Yahweh and tell of what rightly is His. For His works are faithful, His words are true.